What is going on, guys? You know what time it is. It's time for another episode of Damien Ruins Horror Movies. My name is Damien, and tonight, as you know, we're going to be looking at Slumber Party Massacre 2, which is kind of crazy because it's been, by the time I release this, it'll be like exactly 1 year since I did Slumber Party Massacre 1. And this is what 1 year without a haircut because of quarantine and epidemics and pandemics and all that shit. That's what this is. That's what it looks like. And I'm not wearing a Cool Dude Inc. shirt this episode, but don't let that stop you from going to Cool Dude Inc., which you can go down into show notes and find the link. There's a few links in there. There's if you like the new intro, that band, the Whiskey Bats, you can click on there and go onto their YouTube page and hear more of their music because they are ready to make an album. They just haven't done it yet, but you should go. It's like the preview. Also, you can follow Damien Ruins Horror Movies on Facebook. Trying to get the plugs out of the way. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video. And I think now we're about up to speed, except for if you want to watch this movie, if you want to watch it for free, and you have Tubi, it's on Tubi. If you're subscribed to Shudder, it's on Shudder. If you want to own it, I put the Amazon link on it. Although I bought this probably, I don't know. I guess it's been a while now. When I bought it, I know I put the link on there. It's selling for $90. It's all 3 movies. You open it up. And it's that great thing where it's the actual, well, no. The first disc is like just that movie. It's not 3 discs. And the last one is part 2 and 3. And it comes with a booklet that's full of lots of trivia. And it's selling for $90 now. I don't think I paid more than $20 for this when I got it. So I'm not, and it's not Blu-ray, it's DVD. I don't know if they ever made, I don't think they did. I didn't look it up. This film opens with, because it's been a while since I've seen the original. I don't remember who lives and who dies. I know who the final girl is. If you have not seen the first one, don't get mad at me because you watched this before you watched the first movie and before you watched my first review. Because the final girl in the first one was the neighbor, Valerie, who, in my opinion, Valerie was the hot one. She was the new student. She was a new girl in town. She did not get invited to the party. Therefore, she, from an outside point of view, got to look in and see the troubles the neighbors were in. And she saved the day. But she didn't do it alone. She had a little sister. Her little sister, Courtney, was with her. Now, this film picks up, because this came out in 87. The original came out in 82. This actually does take place 5 years later, but it actually was made 5 years later, not like Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 2, where it came out a year later and they pretend 5 years passed. Same with Friday the 13th, Part 1 and 2, where they pretend 5 years actually passed between the making of these 2 movies. But Valerie is not the main character. Valerie is in a menstrual institute. Valerie is in a mental institute. She's locked up. The protagonist in this movie is Courtney, Valerie's little sister. But it's not the same actress. It's that chick from Wings. Courtney wakes up after having fantasized a pleasant dream of this guy, Matt, playing football with no shirt on, who she has a crush on. But the dream turns dark as this wielding drill guitarist menace guy pops up and haunts her, and she wakes up and she goes downstairs, runs into Mom at breakfast before school, and Mom kind of updates us on, like, fills in the story. It's like, oh, your sister, we're going to go visit your sister Valerie in the mental institute this weekend. And Courtney's kind of like, I don't really want to do that because, Sunday's my birthday. And Mom's like, because she's like, I don't really want to spend my birthday in a mental institute. And Mom's like, oh my God, I had no idea. I don't know what it is with like parents forgetting their kids' birthdays back in the 80s, where it's like, oh my God, like, you've seen 16 Candles. It's like, there was always like, oh, by the way, it's my birthday. Like, there's this weird invisible kid syndrome. Mom was like, well, okay, well, maybe we can visit her at a different time. And then Courtney gets picked up by her friend Amy, and they drive to school. And on the way to school, they're like rocking out. And they get to a light, and they see Matt, the dream boy, the topless football player guy. They're like, oh. And I think it's Sheila's parents, who we have not met yet. But Amy tells Courtney, it's like, yeah, we're all going to get together because they're in a band. And it's like, oh, we're going to rock out and have practice. Sheila's parents just bought this condo. They haven't moved in yet, but we can go stay the weekend there, and we can jam, and we can party. And so she's like, oh, and there's Matt right there. You should invite Matt. And she's like, I don't know if I should. It's like, come on, you guys have hung out a couple times. I think he likes you. She's like, okay. So she invites him. Oh, she didn't invite him yet. She talked to him. She invites him because they're gonna play after school because they practice. I think they practice at Sally. Sally's the singer. Sally Burns. And this movie has throwback Sally Burns, because Sally's the final girl from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, played by Marilyn Burns. This girl's name is Sally Burns. Little throwbacks. It's hard to figure out the steals and the throwbacks, but there's some stealing going on. It's going on. We'll get to it though. But she invites Matt over to the garage where they're jamming out, and the jam session is awesome. She has a word with Matt. She invites him. He's down to go. Everything is going pretty well in the direction of like, yeah, we're gonna have a weekend party. It's kind of weird because I did forget to mention this is in honor of Women in Horror Month. But it's kind of weird because like this is how me and my friends party started, with like all that that kind of I don't know, I don't think anybody's gonna come and but it's like it's just written in a weird, because it's written by women, where it's like because for me I'm kind of like, dude, if you're a girl and you ask a guy to go to a party, the guy's gonna come. That's how I was like, a girl invite us. That's how I would have been. Girls never invite. Guys inviting girls over, it's like, oh yeah, we know what you're up to. You want one thing. And so it's kind of weird to see the switcheroo, because it's almost like, this almost feels like a guy wrote it trying to put himself in a girl's point of view. But it's not. Like, a woman wrote and directed this movie. And it's like, that's cool. But Courtney keeps having these fucked up dreams involving this killer driller, this guy with a guitar. And it's really annoying because, like, anytime there's, like, a reference to it, it's like, okay, we get it, because they're like the screen changes and we see his face, but we got to hear this annoying little like wannabe Eddie Van Halen riff where it's like, and you're like, what the hell? Amy and Courtney drive up there and they hear a song on the radio. I mean, it's a very rock. I'm not even mad at this rockabilly soundtrack. The band that does all the songs with female vocals is called Wednesday Week, which is kind of weird because like, you're getting no credit. You guys aren't in the movie, but your music is, and you guys never got big. It's kind of like that movie Eddie and the Cruisers, where the John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown band made all those songs and got no credit because the movie got big enough to where it's like they really thought that Michael Pare was singing those. Like, no, it's this dude. But once they get to the condo, they hit the booze cabinet and they start to partay, and they turn on the music and they start dancing. They have that 80s fucking dance party, girls in lingerie type stuff. We get some boobage. And a couple of the guys show up a little early, TJ and Jeff, and they're, instead of knocking on the door, they just hear sounds. Like, yeah, I hear music. Let's peek in. And they peek through the window. And they get to see good old Sheila. Sheila's rocking out with her tots out. And Jeff's like, wow, I didn't know girls really did this. Which is funny, because that's a great reaction. Because that would be my reaction. If I show up and say, hey, we got early, maybe we'll peek in the window and see what they're doing. If they were doing that, that would be my reaction. I'd be like, oh my God, girls really do this. I would expect to wake up at any moment and be like, no, they don't. They don't really do that. But in this movie, they do. And so the song ends and the girls kind of wrap it up. And the guys are kind of like, well, let's make our presence known. And they scare them. The girls are like, oh, you fuckers. So around bedtime, Amy and Courtney are laying in bed together. Not in a sexual way. It's a slumber party. Girls get away with that. It's like, oh, we're going to sleep. You can stay at my house and we're going to sleep in my bed. Like, as a guy, when you have a friend over, like you sleep in your bed, your friend sleeps on the floor. It's like, hey, you better bring a yoga mat or something with you because your ass is on the floor. We're not sleeping in my bed together. I don't care if I had a king size bed. We're not sleeping in my bed together. We're just not. I need to wake up in the morning and your morning wood accidentally against mine, or like tip touching, crossing, whatever. No, you're sleeping on the floor, okay? Just like I will sleep on the floor at your house. That's just how that works. But they're laying in bed and they can hear TJ and Sheila going at it. And they're kind of laughing. They're kind of annoyed. They're like, huh? They're like, boy, are they always this loud? Wish they'd shut up and get some, so I get some sleep. And then Courtney kind of closes her eyes and starts fantasizing about old Matt and his shirtless body throwing that football. She's like, oh, Matt. But then Matt turns into the driller killer, which turns her little dream into a nightmare. And the next day she wakes up and she's like, God, that felt real. And she's annoyed and she tries to talk to her friends, but it is a weird, like, what are you trying to explain? She's like, I just had this bad dream. And Amy's like, you know what? You probably just hung over. You probably drank a little too much last night. Here, drink some water, blah, blah. You'll be okay. She's like, yeah, you're probably right. And they hang out by the poolside. Sally has a zit that she wants to show everybody, mainly Courtney. She's like, oh, I got this huge zit. And Courtney looks at it and she's like, no, you don't. I don't see anything. She's like, well, it's below the skin and it hurts. Like, well, then shut up. Finally, Courtney goes in the house and decides, I'm going to have some aspirin, try and get rid of this headache once and for all. And she opens the fridge to get water. There's probably like a jug or a pitcher or something in there. And this chicken attacks her. And it's not a live chicken. It's a headless, raw chicken that jumps at her. And it's like, and then like, I don't know if it's supposed to be blood. It looks like chocolate syrup starts squirting out of the neck of it, which you can get away with if you're filming Psycho in black and white in 1960. But in 1987, when you're filming in color, you can't use chocolate syrup for fucking blood. You just can't. Okay? And she freaks out and runs into the other room and everybody's like, what's going on? And this is especially annoying to her friends because we just had an 80s montage where they have another jam session and it montages out to all the fun they've been having, and it's ruined by Courtney constantly having these issues with this dream killer guy who's not Freddy Krueger. But Amy, being the good friend, tells her, it's like, you know what? You just need to relax. You know what would help? Go take a bath and just chill. It'll make your head. It's like, you drank too much. We're teenagers. We don't know what we're doing. Just, isn't it funny how, like, when you're a teenager, if you drink, you're like, fuck, we don't know how to drink responsibly. We get fucking crazy. But suddenly, the next day, we all know how to deal. We all know the cure for the hangover. No, you don't. Different for everybody. But with Amy's situation, it's like, they're pretty much like with Courtney's situation, they're pretty much just like, Courtney, you're bumming everybody out. We're trying to have a good weekend, and you fucked it up early by doing weird, like, just fuck off. Go get in the bath and get away from us. Hopefully that solves it. If not, at least it's a good hour. We don't have to deal with your bullshit. But instead, she's in the bath and she kind of dozes off. She gets a visit from the killer driller. Wakes up, freaks out, and she's like, oh my God. She runs out. She runs into fucking Sally, who's like, man, this zit won't go away. And all of a sudden, the zit turns into like, to the point where it's like, is Courtney on acid? And then, like, Sally's head explodes. So she runs downstairs. She's like, oh my God, Sally's dead. Sally's dead. Sally. It's funny because whenever somebody freaks out in this movie about Sally, all I can hear in my head is Franklin's voice going, Sally? 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 Are you okay? Are you Sally? Are you gonna... You know, that annoying thing where it's like, man, I hate to root against a guy in a wheelchair, but god damn, if this guy doesn't die soon, I'm gonna have to turn this fucking movie off. Matt finally shows up. And he consoles her for a little bit. He shows up just in time. She's freaking out. He's like, hey, I'm here. He's like, oh, suddenly I'm your boyfriend. And Matt is like the level-headed. I don't know. It's weird. he consoles her. Then him and the other guys, Matt, TJ, and Jeff, and because TJ is the jackass that I don't know. There's like anytime I shouldn't say that because it's been a while since I've seen one, but there was always that like Michelangelo character guy who's like, oh, well, oh, piece of, like the Bill and Ted type guy. This movie, like TJ is that. Like every time he says something, he's got to have a laugh. It's like, whoa, it's like, well, maybe we just didn't bring enough meat for the barbecue. Like no matter, like he doesn't say anything funny. He just talks, and then he's got to. I knew a guy like that, and he annoyed the shit out of me. It's like, dude, especially because it was like 1997. It's like, dude, that burnout chuckle, that candle blew out 10 years ago, or so, or close. I don't know, but that's TJ. So Matt is like the level-headed, like I'm the guy who's going to kind of save the day. You guys are partying. I'm the adult. I mean, he's not the adult. He's their age, but he's the responsible one. Clean up the mess. It's like, all right, what's going on? Okay, cool. And TJ's like, this girl's disruptive. I'm trying to get laid, and this girl keeps freaking out about shit. And Jeff, I don't know what the fuck Jeff was doing there. He's like trying to, I don't know. I mean, good dude, but he was just kind of there. It's like, what's your agenda? It's like, you're not the boyfriend of anybody. And it does not make any sense that you and TJ are friends. It's like, I'm TJ's friend. You are? You're wearing a polo shirt, dude. How are you guys? You guys, no. But Sally is missing. So Matt's like, all right, we'll call the cops. Because Matt's kind of like, we're not taking any shit. Okay, this happened. You're afraid of this? All right, let's do it. Oh, you think Sally's dead? Can't find her body? Okay, cool. We'll call the cops. And he just does it. He just in motion. He's like, Matt's about just crushing the bullshit. He's like, oh, we're gonna have fun. No, we can't have fun. What's in the way of getting fun? Oh, you think this girl's missing? Okay, we'll call the cops. But then the cops show up, which based on their questioning and the reference of her of Sally missing, it's like, did the cops take 3 hours to get there? But the cops question them uselessly. And in the middle of it, like, Sally comes walking in. And the cops are like, oh, is this your friend you're worried about? Is that the dead one? And it's funny because TJ's like, oh, no, you're not supposed to be here. No, he's like, oh, whoa, you're supposed to be dead. And then the cops are like, it's like, what are we doing? One of them even says, like, you just wasted $200 of taxpayers' money. I was like, holy shit, $200? I mean, granted, it's 1987. That's like $250 now. But the cops get really. But then they say the cop's name. It's Officer Voorhees and Officer Kruger. I was like, okay. This movie already had kind of a feel of like a Nightmare on Elm Street ripoff, where every time the only time Courtney sees the killer is when she's sleeping, and then she dreams, and she wakes up, and it feels real. It's very Freddy-like. But then Officer Kruger? I mean, there's nothing Jason-like about this movie. And that's not a new thing. Like, Night of the Creeps does that, but it does it with directors, where there's like Officer Raimi and Officer... But Night of the Creeps doesn't at the same time rip off the actors and directors that it references. So it's kind of weird where it's like, this is straight up, you're stealing. We had the bathtub scene. We got it. It's that night. Courtney's laying in bed, getting ready to go to sleep. And Matt comes in with the birthday cake. Because remember, it's Courtney's birthday. And they talk, and he's kind of like, yeah, it looks like, because he's a good dude. He's like, he remembered her birthday. He brought her a cake. He's like, I know you're going through a tough time, and I'm not sure why, but I'm here to listen. And she starts explaining. Because he's like, oh, does this go back to that night? Because I know that you and your sister, back when your neighbors, the Cravens, it shows, because, like, the neighbors didn't have a last name. Because they weren't, because in the original, Courtney's the neighbor. In this one, that girl, I don't remember her name, I'm not going to look it up. They're the neighbors, but it's like their last name's Craven. It's like, oh, Another homage to the Freddy ripoff. But he makes her feel better, and then they start getting it on. But then the killer driller shows up. The killer driller is not going to let her get it on with this guy. I don't know if it's jealousy. I don't know what his deal is. He breaks out of her dreams and into reality, and he kills Matt. And it's not her imagination. Like, he really kills Matt, which is weird because I was expecting Matt to be one of two things. Because he's been in it so much and so little at the same time. He's this hovering in the distance thing. So I figure either he's going to be the hero that saves the day, or it's going to turn out Matt is going to turn out to be the killer. But this scene just wipes that out because the killer kills Matt and she escapes. She goes downstairs. They're downstairs rocking out. And killer driller follows. And the band stops and they look. They can all see him. So this guy's in reality now. And it's like, oh shit, well now what's going on? And the killer drills TJ in his leg. Like, because TJ obviously should be the first one to die. Like, the fact that we're almost done with this movie. A lot happened in the last 20 minutes. That's when all the kills happen. Courtney and Amy go into the kitchen. They grab the phone, the old school phone on the wall. They're trying to call the cops. On the other side, the killer driller, KD, he stabs Sally into the chest and through the wall, which happens to be right where the phone is, so they can't call the cops. They have to escape. Jeff's still with them. Sheila and TJ escape a different way. TJ's limping. He's hurt, but Sheila, it's like she's his ride or die. They've been having sex all weekend. So she's like, I'll save you, TJ. I don't care if you laugh like an idiot after everything you say. So they're separated. Jeff, Amy, and Courtney, they go out to Jeff's car and they're like, fuck. The car won't start. And you're like, oh, the killer. It's kind of a suspenseful moment. Car does start. They start driving. They don't get very far, and all of a sudden, Jeff gets drilled from behind. It's a gigantic guitar because Killer Driller is hanging out in the back seat the whole time because he knew what they were going to try and do. Why did all three of them sit in the front seat? Just because he can doesn't mean... I don't know. I would either want the front seat or the back seat to myself if it's, because it's a wide seat. It's one big seat. It's not like... So Jeff's dead. They didn't get very far. Courtney and Amy run back to the house. They get inside. They go upstairs. They get in a room. They barricade themselves in the room. Meanwhile, nearby, the killer kills TJ, but not Sheila. Sheila gets away. Sheila gets wounded, though. She's bleeding. And as they're barricading the door, they can hear Sheila getting closer. Like, we should save her. So they start to. Then they hear her die. And they're like, all right, fuck that. And they realize that Killer Driller is getting very, very close. So they go out the window onto the roof, which is never a good idea. That's why you don't want to go upstairs. Because, okay, after he gets up here, where do we go? No, we go out the window. Then we start doing some weird shit. But they're running. They get near a construction site. Killer Driller is hot on their tail. Killer Driller kills Amy, which breaks my fucking heart. Amy was the best person in this movie. Courtney escapes a little bit more. And then she finds a blowtorch, like a welding, I don't know. She lights Killer Driller on fire. Not unlike how Freddy Krueger died and then became Freddy Krueger that we know as a dream-entering murderer. And seemingly, Killer Driller is dead. But then the ending ends up in this, like, she wakes up and she's in the bed with Matt. Like nothing ever happened again. And then Matt once again turns into the Killer Driller. And she wakes up again, and she's in the institute where she had been seeing Valerie the whole time. Like, did she imagine this whole thing? It's confusing. And as much as the first time I watched this movie, I didn't like it very much. I like it more now this time. It's not a good movie. It's the worst one of the three. I still stand by that. But it is the nostalgia of like watching them party and hang out. Like, if you first saw this movie as a teenager, it does have a throwback. It's like, man, I miss being young and just hanging by the pool and not having to go to work tomorrow. Not having to do shit the next day. I don't know. The Badass Award goes to Courtney, I guess, because she lit Driller Killer on fire. Did she bring him to reality? I don't know. I really wanted Amy to go all the way. She was the best character in this movie. She was laid back. She was the cutest. What did we learn? Survival tales. Learn how to lock a back door. Keep your keys in your pockets. I don't understand people that people at work do that all the time where you see keys. Like, why have this person's keys here? It's like, for me, I don't know. I just yeah, I've had a lot of stuff stolen from me in my life. I'm like, I'm just gonna leave my keys around. Especially like, I don't want to be here. I'm not gonna leave my keys somewhere where I'm stuck here. Somebody stole your keys. It looks like you're stuck at work. No. Always check the back seat of your car when it's dark before you start driving. Before you even get in the car, just anybody in there? Knock. See if you can scare them. Get them to move. Because they weren't expecting you. Sometimes when people are stalking you and waiting to kill you, you take a long time and they fall asleep. Sometimes you can startle them. They'll be like, what the fuck? They forgot what they were doing. They're like, oh shit, I was going to kill you. It's like, no, get out of there. All right, that's all I got. This is longer than I expected, but yes, February. February is a fucked up month for themes because it's the shortest month, and we got Black History, we got Women in Horror History, we got Valentine's Day, we got President's Day, I was planning to do Blackula, I ran out of time. Sorry, maybe I'll throw it in anyway. Just because it ain't Black History Month doesn't mean I can't do Blackula. I just kind of feel like Blackula is offensive, so the best time to do it would be during that time. I'd be like, I'm going to do Blackula. I feel like if I do that in August, people are like, what the fuck? We're trying to forget that movie. So am I. My brothers. So am I.